September 19th, 1940. A Polish resistance fighter stands in a Warsaw street as German soldiers march toward him. He doesn't run. He's waiting to be arrested. Witold Pilecki is about to do something no prisoner of war has ever attempted: break into Auschwitz. The Nazis have sealed the camp so tight that not even the Allies know what's happening inside. 10,000 people have already vanished behind its gates. 0 have escaped to tell the truth. Pilecki has 72 hours of training, a fake identity, and a suicide mission. Infiltrate history's most lethal death machine, build a resistance network, and get intelligence out to the world. If the Gestapo discovers who he really is, torture is guaranteed. But here's what makes this beyond insane. He succeeds. For 947 days, he survives daily executions, starvation, and experiments, while secretly organizing 1,000 prisoners right under the SS's nose. He smuggles out reports so horrifying that Allied commanders refuse to believe them. Then, in 1943, he does the impossible again. He escapes. But the intelligence he risked everything for? The world ignores it. 2 million more people die in camps while his warnings collect dust. Why did the Allies bury his reports? And what happened to the man who saw hell and survived? September 19th, 1940. Warsaw under occupation. German posters on every lamppost. German rifles on every corner. German rules rewriting Polish life sentence by sentence. And one 39-year-old Polish cavalry officer named Witold Pilecki is about to do something that sounds less like bravery and more like a short circuit in the survival instinct. This is not the kind of decision that comes from adrenaline. It comes from calculation. From weeks of listening to rumors with no bodies, from telegrams that say died of illness without saying where, from families waiting for men who do not come back. Pilecki understands something early. Whatever Auschwitz is, it is designed to swallow people without leaving fingerprints. He steps into a łapanka, a street roundup in the Żoliborz district, where German soldiers scoop civilians off sidewalks and herd them into trucks. He could have hidden. He has contacts in the underground. He has safe houses. He has a wife and 2 young children in the countryside. Instead, he lets the net close around him because Auschwitz has become a black box. People enter. Families receive telegrams. Names vanish from every record. The Polish resistance needs someone inside the machine, not a rumor, not a secondhand whisper, but a trained officer with eyes, memory, and discipline. Someone who can survive long enough to observe patterns, who can remember names, numbers, routines, who can tell the difference between chaos and a system pretending to be chaos. Auschwitz is not just killing people, it is erasing evidence that killing is happening at all. Pilecki's superiors in the secret Polish army approve the plan. They hand him forged identity papers bearing another man's name, Tomasz Serafiński. It is not just a name swap, it is a controlled death. From this moment on, Witold Pilecki is supposed to stop existing on paper. If the plan works, he will live as another man. If it fails, no one will officially die. Same birth date, different photograph. Remember that name. It will return later in a coincidence so absurd that fiction would reject it. The roundup catches roughly 2,000 civilians. Pilecki joins the line, standing in rows of 5, as the Wehrmacht sorts human beings into neat bundles for transport. He is detained with about 1,800 others in the Light Horse Guards barracks, beaten with rubber truncheons, spotlighted through the night, weapons aimed from every angle. This is the first test. Not pain, but uncertainty. Men whisper guesses about destinations, about camps, about work, about release. Nobody says the word death, not because they don't think so, because saying it feels like inviting it. 2 days. No meaningful food. Thirst that turns the mouth to chalk. And then the freight cars. Old lime dust on the floor. Doors bolted shut. Air gone. On the night of September 21st to 22nd, the transport arrives at Auschwitz. The place is not announced. No one says Auschwitz like it means something. It is just a platform, floodlights, and orders shouted fast enough that obedience becomes instinct. Dogs, shouting, a new kind of silence, the kind that comes right before a beating. Then the gate, the iron slogan overhead, Arbeit macht frei, Work sets you free. It is not a lie. It is worse than a lie. It is a joke told by men who own your breathing. He is registered as prisoner 4859. That number is his new name. And the real one, Witold Pilecki, disappears behind a shaved head, a striped uniform, and a regime designed to erase identity itself. He came to gather intelligence, but within his first hours, he realizes the opening mission is not espionage. It is survival. Survival not as endurance, but as positioning. Staying alive long enough to learn how the camp works. Who controls food? Who controls fear? Who breaks first? Espionage will come later, if later exists, because Auschwitz does not kill you with one thing. It kills you with everything: cold, hunger, disease, random beatings, selection. How do you build a clandestine army inside a machine built to grind human beings into dust without getting yourself and every man you recruit murdered in the process? And what happens when the army you build sends its first report out and the world reads it, nods, and does nothing? In late 1940, Auschwitz was not yet the single word it would become. It is a concentration camp built inside converted Polish army barracks near the town of Auschwitz, packed mainly with Polish political prisoners and military men. That detail matters because it explains the one slim crack Pilecki is betting his life on. Polish prisoners still recognize rank without uniforms. They still know how to organize. They still whisper the same forbidden sentences: "We are not alone. We are not finished." But Auschwitz is engineered to delete those sentences from the mind. The camp runs on a brutal algorithm: hunger plus exhaustion plus random terror equals compliance. Pilecki would later call hunger the hardest battle of his life. Not bullets, not cavalry charges. Hunger. Because hunger makes you selfish. It shrinks your horizon to bread, soup, warmth. And Pilecki's mission demands the opposite: long-term thinking, trust, a network built one whispered question at a time. He starts small, no speeches, no flags. Just a question asked in the right corner of a barrack to the right man. Were you in the underground before you came here? 14 words, and if the answer is wrong, those 14 words get you hanged in the roll call square. He creates a clandestine organization called the ZOW, Związek Organizacji Wojskowej, the Union of Military Organization, structured in cells of 5 men each. 5 know each other. No cell knows the next. If the SS breaks one man under interrogation, the rest of the network stays standing. The logic is cold, almost mathematical. It has to be. Auschwitz punishes emotion. ZOW's goals are practical: pool and redistribute food, pass along news, study which guard can be bribed, which capo is a sadist, which work detail kills you in a week and which kills you in a month. In Auschwitz, a month counts as a long-term investment. Every few days, Pilecki adds another link. He recruits without looking like he recruits. He leads without looking like a leader, because in a camp riddled with informers, visible authority is a death sentence. The SS does not need proof. Suspicion is enough. In October 1940, just weeks after arriving, Pilecki gets his first report out through a prisoner who is released, a young officer named Alexander Wielopolski, who memorizes the intelligence and delivers it orally to resistance contacts in Warsaw. That report details the camp layout, the systematic abuse, the locations of weapon stores. It moves through the Polish underground to the government in exile in London. By March 1941, it reached the Allies. On paper, this is victory. The world now knows. Surely someone will act. A bombing raid on the SS barracks. Weapons dropped to the prisoners. At minimum, someone stops saying exaggerated and starts saying urgent. Inside the camp, Pilecki keeps working because he cannot afford optimism. He watches prisoners die of beatings, disease, starvation in rotating waves. He survives pneumonia. He survives typhus. He doubts himself in the hospital barracks, lice-ridden and weak, asking the question you would ask too. Was this a mistake? And then he makes the decision that defines him. He refuses to let the doubt show, because morale is a weapon, and he will not let his men disarm. ZOW grows. At its peak, the network numbers over 1,000 members, including women and prisoners of other nationalities across the main camp and sub-camps. They do not just whisper, they build. At one point, The organization assembles a clandestine radio transmitter from smuggled parts, broadcasting camp conditions and death counts from inside Auschwitz, until the risk of discovery forces them to shut it down. A radio, soldered together in a barrack while SS boots stomp past the window. If you ever wondered what courage looks like stripped of all glamour, it looks exactly like that. If this kind of history grabs you, stories where the facts are stranger than anything a screenwriter would dare invent, hit subscribe. You are going to want to see what happens when the world finally reads Pilecki's reports and responds with silence. The reports keep leaving the camp. The death counts keep climbing. The murders become systematized. And somewhere out there, surely, someone is reading. Which brings us to the most dangerous thing Pilecki smuggles out of Auschwitz. Not a report, not a radio signal. A question. If the Allies know, why is nothing changing? By 1942, Auschwitz was mutating. It is still a camp of forced labor and terror, but now it is also a prototype for industrial extermination. Pilecki's reports describe early poison gas experiments on Soviet prisoners of war, tests that become a template. Then the camp expands. Auschwitz II-Birkenau rises on the demolished village of Brzezinka, 2 kilometers away. New rail lines, new selections on arrival platforms. Gas chambers designed not for rage, but for throughput. Crematoria capable of burning thousands of bodies per day. Auschwitz stops functioning like a prison. It starts functioning like infrastructure. And that is what makes it so difficult to believe from the outside. Evil is not always loud. Sometimes it is bureaucratic. Outside the wire, war rooms speak a different language. In that language, suffering becomes unconfirmed. Distance becomes limited operational range. Risk becomes not practical. Pilecki's messages grow more urgent, and the world's skepticism grows thicker. Imagine sending reports from inside a death factory and being told in diplomatic code, "Are you sure?" He is sure. He lives there. Inside the camp, the resistance faces a second enemy: time. Every day, Pilecki remains another random chance, wrong work detail, wrong illness, wrong capo, wrong list. And Zhao is growing visible. That is the paradox of rebellion in a death camp. Success attracts exactly the attention that destroys you. The SS hunts for conspiracy. Interrogations intensify. Prisoners who know too much vanish into punishment blocks they do not return from. So Pilecki does something that sounds insane on paper. He begins planning a camp uprising, not a symbolic protest, a violent seizure. Barracks on fire. Guards were surprised. Prisoners surging behind a corps of trained men who know what to do. But the arithmetic is merciless. By 1943 and into 1944, Auschwitz held over 100,000 prisoners spread across the main camp, Birkenau, and dozens of subcamps, too dispersed for any single eruption. The SS garrison numbers a few thousand, outnumbered on paper but armed, trained, and sitting in watchtowers with machine guns. Most prisoners are not soldiers. They are starving, sick, terrified. A crowd can riot. A crowd cannot coordinate, not under searchlights, not through electrified fences, not when survival strategy has been hammered into people as invisibility. Pilecki understands all of this, but he is watching the camp slide toward mass murder on a continental scale, and he cannot unsee it. He sends word to the Home Army: authorize an attack. No green light without outside support. No outside support without the Allies. The Polish government in exile is not sleeping. As early as 1941, after Pilecki's first intelligence reached London, there were appeals to bomb the camp's perimeter and SS facilities to create an opening. British air commanders respond, not practical, too far, too imprecise, higher priorities. Later in 1944, Jewish organizations and Polish diplomatic channels push again for strikes on the gas chambers and crematoria. Allied bombers hit industrial installations within kilometers of the camp. But the camp itself is never targeted. That is the contradiction Pilecki is trapped inside. The world is informed. The world is debating. The world is considering options. Inside the wire, people are dying on schedule. Zhao initially discourages escapes because earlier in the camp's history, attempted breakouts trigger collective punishment. Prisoners left behind stand for hours in the cold or are selected for execution. Running is not just about you. Then the SS abandons collective reprisals, and Zhao shifts strategy, helping escapees prepare. At one point, Pilecki gives up a planned sewer route to another prisoner in more immediate danger. He keeps choosing other people's lives over his own. The Home Army refuses to approve his uprising plan, not because they don't care, because without Allied air support, an attack would be a massacre written in advance. And now Pilecki faces a question with teeth. If no one is coming, what is the mission becoming? Service or suicide? If staying changes nothing, what is the point of dying quietly inside the wire when he could escape, survive, and scream the truth into the world himself? By early 1943, the Gestapo was closing in on Zhao, killing several key members. Pilecki's cover is fraying. He makes the decision he has been delaying for nearly 3 years. He will escape. But Auschwitz is not a place you walk out of. So where does a man find an exit inside a fortress built to deny exits? He finds a job near the edge. He finds a door. If staying changes nothing, what is the point of dying quietly inside the wire when escape could turn survival into testimony? April 26th to 27th, 1943. The camp bakery sits at the perimeter of Pilecki's world, about 2 kilometers north of the main camp fence, close enough to smell the wire, far enough to taste possibility. He gets assigned to the night shift there, because in Auschwitz, your work detail is your geography, and geography is destiny. He picks 2 men he trusts, Jan Redze and Edward Cisielski. Redze has already used fresh bread dough to make an imprint of the nut holding the outer door's hook. They have the right wrench. Under their striped uniforms, Pilecki and Cisielski wear civilian clothes. They carry tobacco soaked in a solution to throw off tracking dogs. They carry cyanide capsules in case the SS catches them alive. The bakery has alarms, telephone lines, a heavy iron outer door that says, in the language of metal, no. They wait for the guards to settle. Around 2 a.m., they cut the telephone wire. They cut the alarm ring wire. They fit the wrench to the nut and force the door open. And they slide through like ghosts. No triumphant music, no slow motion. Just 3 prisoners crossing the razor line between contained and hunted. A twig snap could be a death sentence. A cough could trigger a searchlight sweep. A dog could become a radar system with teeth. 9 shots crack the silence behind them. The SS bakery guards, firing blind into the dark. Every round misses. Pilecki will later write that they galloped into the darkness like startled horses. They run east. They use forest for cover because open ground is where spotlights eat you. They cross the Soa River, swim the Vistula, and find a boat by accident on the far bank. They hide. They listen. They keep moving. They cross into the general government, the German administrative zone of occupied Poland, because every kilometer east of the camp is a kilometer less likely to end with a bullet. Shaved heads, torn civilian clothes, no money, no papers worth trusting. Roughly 100 kilometers of walking before anything resembling safety. And it takes about a week, and then the universe cashes the check written back in Chapter 1. Pilecki reaches Nowy Wiśnicz, near Bochnia, and contacts the regional Home Army Command. He meets a resistance commander, a homeowner. And the name on this man's lips when he introduces himself is Tomasz Serafiński, the real one. The man whose identity Pilecki borrowed to enter Auschwitz 2.5 years ago. If this were fiction, an editor would flag it as too convenient. History does not care about editors. Pilecki stays in Serafiński's house, writing the first draft of his report, camp structure, terror methods, gas chambers, what he built, what he saw, who died. He later writes that he left the camp in the night, just as I had arrived, after 947 days and as many nights in that hell. Hold on to that number, because when you survive 947 days of Auschwitz, you start thinking the hardest part is over. It is not. The escape is the easy part. The hard part is what the world does with the truth once it is delivered in person. Pilecki wants the Home Army to strike. He wants an armed operation against the camp before the gas chambers erase hundreds of thousands more. But the Home Army's regional commanders tell him the plan is unrealistic without outside support. Weeks pass, months, no uprising, no assault, no miracle. On August 25, 1943, he went back to Warsaw. He walks into the general headquarters of the Home Army and presents his detailed report, describing the murder of Poles, Soviet POWs, and Jews, the gas chambers at Birkenau, the cremation capacity, the Zigeunerlager for Roma prisoners. 100 pages of evidence compiled by a man who lived inside the machine and took it apart with his memory. And the response is not action. It is more of a debate, more calculation, more silence dressed in military vocabulary. So the question sharpens into something that cuts deeper than any fence wire. When a man hands you proof of mass murder and stands in front of you breathing, sweating, scarred, what do you do with it? And what does it say about you if the answer is not enough? Warsaw, 1944. Witold Pilecki could have stopped. He had already broken into Auschwitz, built an underground, and escaped. But war does not ask what you have already given. It only asks what you are willing to lose next. On August 1st, 1944, the Warsaw Uprising detonated, an all-or-nothing gamble by the Polish Home Army to liberate the capital before the Soviet front line arrived. Pilecki is ordered not to participate. He participates anyway, fighting as a common soldier, hiding his rank, as if anonymity can keep him alive a little longer. The Warsaw Uprising is crushed in 63 days. Pilecki was captured, moved through German camps, and finally liberated by American troops on April 29, 1945. For one breath, the story tries to end the way stories are supposed to. Nazis defeated, the prisoner was freed, the hero goes home. Except Poland does not get an ending. Poland gets a new occupation. The Soviets installed a communist regime. Former Home Army fighters become enemies of the state overnight. The men who fought one totalitarian system are now expected to salute another. Pilecki joins General Anders's Polish Second Corps in Italy, writes detailed Auschwitz reports, and at the end of 1945 returns to Poland under an assumed name to gather intelligence on the new communist government. If you want a lesson in how to ensure a hero dies, keep giving him reasons to stay. On May 8, 1947, agents of the Communist Ministry of Public Security arrested him in Warsaw. He is taken to the Mokotów prison on Rakowiecka Street, a place that will become synonymous with the torture and execution of Poland's anti-communist resistance. He spends a year in solitary confinement. Interrogators beat him. They pressure him to sign fabricated confessions. They accuse him of espionage, of planning armed attacks on regime officials, of possessing hidden weapons, charges built on distortions of his wartime service, a system designed to turn a man into a confession. His show trial began on March 3, 1948, at the Warsaw Regional Court. The presiding judge is Lieutenant Colonel Jan Hrykowian. The prosecutor does not allow defense witnesses to testify. The verdict is decided before the courtroom doors open. On March 15, 1948, Pilecki, along with two co-defendants, was sentenced to death. President Bolesław Bierut refuses a pardon. On May 25, 1948, in the basement of Mokotów prison, Witold Pilecki was executed. His body is buried in an unmarked grave, never positively identified. The man who survived Auschwitz does not get a hero's death. He gets bureaucracy, a signature, a corridor, a gunshot. Silence. Before he dies, he leaves behind a single sentence, not written for history, but spoken by a man standing at the edge of everything. I have been trying to live my life so that in the hour of my death, I would rather feel joy than fear. For decades, the communist state erased him. His name is stripped from textbooks, newspapers, and public memory. The reports he risked 947 days to create do not become rallying points. They become contraband, passed in secret, read in whispers, buried in archives. It takes the collapse of communism itself to bring him back. In 1990, the Polish Supreme Court officially acquitted him and his co-defendants. In 2006, he was posthumously awarded Poland's highest honor, the Order of the White Eagle. In 2013, he was posthumously promoted to colonel. In 2019, the European Parliament passes a resolution declaring May 25th, the anniversary of his execution, a proposed international day honoring heroes of the fight against totalitarianism. Ceremonies, wreaths, and exhibitions finally tell his story. But the central tragedy cannot be undone. He did what the world demanded. He got inside, he documented, he sent warnings while gas chambers were still being built, he escaped. He stood in front of military leaders and said, "Here is the proof." Act, and the machinery of murder kept turning, not because Pilecki failed, because the world's response to truth is not guaranteed to be action. Sometimes the response is paperwork. Sometimes the response is disbelief. Sometimes the response is not practical. And sometimes the response is a bullet in a prison basement 3 years after the war ends. When you hear, "the only man who broke into Auschwitz and escaped," do not hear a stunt. Hear a verdict. Courage can get you into hell. Courage can get you out. But courage alone cannot force the world to act at the speed that justice requires. One question remains. If you read his reports in 1941 describing beatings, starvation, gas experiments, and thousands dead, would you have believed him? Or written exaggerated and turned the page? And if Pilecki's story shook something loose in you, there is another escape from Auschwitz that tested courage in a different way. 4 prisoners who put on SS uniforms, stole the commandant's car, and drove straight through the front gate carrying proof of mass murder. That story is waiting for you right here.